Hope everyone's having a pleasant afternoon. This F-150, the 2021 XLT 302A with the 12-inch screen, which was kind of revolutionary when it first came out. Again, in the 21 refresh, otherwise known as the 14th gen. It has been improving little by little through the years because it was very good when it first came out, and now it's even better. And one thing that they have improved, if you notice, is that finally Apple CarPlay turn-by-turn directions are showing up in your little center screen there in the gauge cluster. And that was not the case when this first came out. You could get turn-by-turn directions again in the little center screen there between your two gauges for Apple Maps and for the Ford factory navigation, which is total junk, but not for Apple CarPlay. And so you know, I don't know when exactly it happened, sometime in the last year or so, or maybe sometime in the last month or two, because the last time we drove this vehicle, which was about 2 or 3 weeks ago, you did not have the turn-by-turn directions. You know, you see on the left there, it's giving you your next turn, although you're not about to make the turn, so it's not dominating the display there. But it's the little things. Again, that was not the case 3 or 4 weeks ago, to the best of my knowledge, because when we got in the truck this morning to run a bunch of stuff out to the dump, all of a sudden it was working, and that was a change from the previous time we've driven this thing. So, you know, I guess it got one of those so-called power-up over-the-air updates. And it's neat. You know, additionally, when the 12-inch screen came out, originally, you did not have full-screen CarPlay. You had CarPlay taking up about 2/3 of the screen. And the entire 25% on the right there was something else. And it was a bunch of little sort of sub-screens you could flip through. And they were all pretty much useless. And that was fixed after about the first year, maybe the first year and a half, 2 years. But now again, finally, you get your turn-by-turn directions in the little center screen here between the analog gauges. And yes, I know the analog gauges are gone as of 24, which is too bad. And obviously, it's a result of the fact that the price of LCD color displays has come down so much that it's cheaper just to have a completely digital display on every trim level, as opposed to just the Lariat and above. But again, watch what happens as you approach the turn. You got your little thing, your little turn reminder. Yep, and it pops right up into the pops right up to where it dominates the entire center screen there. So it's basically impossible to miss a turn now, because a lot of times you want to disable the audio on your Google Maps because it's always chirping at you and kind of bugging you to make turns when you know you're going to make a turn, and it's cutting into your radio and it's cutting into your phone calls. And so you disable the audio on your Google Maps, and then if you're in an unfamiliar area, you got to kind of keep your eyes glued to it, which is not what you want to be doing, so you don't miss your turns. But now it's a little bit easier to get those turn-by-turn directions. And you think this is obvious. You think, well, what's the big deal? This is how it should have been from the start. And yes, it should have been that way from the start, but it wasn't. And so what it shows is that Ford is learning. And Ford is even making fixes to these older ones, because officially, you know, the 21 is a little bit out of date now that they've done the 24 refresh and gotten rid of the analog gauges altogether. The fact that they're still updating little things like this in the older trucks, even the older trucks with obsolete features and obsolete technology, is kind of neat. supposedly obsolete. Although, if we're being honest, you know, we've got the 23 Super Duty with the full digital gauges, and no, we're not fans of it. You cannot beat the analog tach, and it's hard to beat the analog speedometer in terms of the sweep of the needles and so on and so forth. That digital tach on the 23 Super Duty and every 24 and up F-150 is basically useless. You know, it can't keep up with the changes in RPMs when you're revving it, and it just doesn't give you good information, and it's not really finely calibrated to the point where it's useful. Whereas the analog gauges work great, and they're clear and they're clean, and you don't have to stare at them to understand them. You can almost see them, you can almost read them with your peripheral vision while you're looking down the road. And we're going to assume that the F-150 with the heads-up display, which came out in 24 with the refresh, can also give you your Google Maps turn-by-turn directions. And we'll confirm when we're out in Michigan in a couple days. We're in Pennsylvania now, soon to be Northern Virginia. We will confirm whether the 23 Super Duty will show you turn-by-turn directions in its fully digital dash and in its heads-up display. And as of the last time we drove it, which was, I don't know, a week or two ago, it did not, and maybe it does now. All right, I want to keep this short. I'll mention something else that happened to this truck, which is that a tree fell on it, or a couple of branches from a tree. About a 8 or 10 inch thick branch fell off a tree and hit this thing. And lucky for us, it was parked. Lucky for us, it had our small 12-foot trailer hitched up, and the trailer caught a lot of the impact. And also lucky for us, there were a lot of smaller branches, like, you know, coming off that main 10 or 12 inch branch, and, you know, 5 inch branches and 3 inch branches and 1 inch branches. And so it wasn't a severe impact. It was almost like slowly laying down onto the truck. And so we got a dent in the roof that's about 2 inches deep. And fortunately, we did not have a sunroof. If we had the sunroof, that thing would have been shattered. And we'd be desperately trying to find a way to keep this thing out of the rain. But no, we did not have a sunroof. And you can't even tell. There isn't like intrusion into the cabin because the headliner isn't deformed at all. And there were a couple of little bumps on the edges of the roof, a couple of little bumps on the very rear of the cab, the C-pillars, but not to where it leaps out at you. It's not really noticeable. The vehicle's about 6.5 feet off the ground, give or take, and so unless you're above it, like looking down onto it, you don't notice the pretty good sized, you know, depression, if you will, in the roof. The metal was bent. It was not torn in any way. So there's no holes. It's not, you know, there's no leaks into the headline or anything like that, or along the upper edges of the roof on the left and right side. And so all in all, it could have been a hell of a lot worse. We haven't started the process of getting the estimates and getting it fixed, but we will. Obviously, being an aluminum-bodied truck, aluminum is much more complicated to work on than steel because it's more of a fragile material. It stretches, it creases easier, so on and so forth. As you know, if you've ever held a soda can or a beer can in your life. Unfortunately, it's going to be an insurance job. Unfortunately, we were not at fault, so we'll see what comes of that. Thinking about putting a camper top on this thing, because a lot of the cargo we've been carrying with it lately has been the kind of stuff that comes up over the top edge of the bed, and so you can't exactly use the bed cover, the folding bed cover that we have, easily. And that bed cover isn't 100% watertight anyway. And so for the sake of carrying larger, bulkier cargo, that comes up over the edges of the bed, but not over the roof line, and for the purpose of keeping it from getting rained on, for the purpose of keeping it getting grabbed by the wind, and so on and so forth. We're considering getting a camper top, and we'll see. You know, we've talked to a couple of people who have this truck, and I mean, it's the kind of vehicle that gets, with no trailer on it, just doing 65 to 75 on the interstate, it'll get 28 to 30 miles to the gallon because it is the diesel. And as I understand it, the camper top, as long as it's like a low rise, meaning it's flush with the, it's level with the roof of the truck, it doesn't hurt your MPGs that much, if at all. And I guess we'll find out. Miles are closing in on 75,000. We'll hit 75,000. We're at 72.5 right now. We'll hit 75 by the end of the week. And this truck is just running like a champ. No issues at all. The 10R80, which is the Ford 10-speed transmission, even though it's not the one that was fixed with the little bushing for the CDF drum, we haven't had the repair done because we haven't needed to. And obviously, I think as of August of 22, it's not an issue whatsoever. Even so, it's still the so-called original 10R80. Works fine. Shift quality is great. Never had an issue of any kind with it. 3.0 diesel runs great. Never had an issue with that of any kind. After 100,000 miles, give or take, you've got to change out the timing belts, of which there are two. You've got a front and a rear timing belt, as I understand it. I think this engine has a wet belt driven oil pump. Maybe, not entirely sure, but that may need to be done. And so there's some decently expensive maintenance coming up on it. Injectors appear to still be in great shape. There's no issues at all with running rough. Nothing remotely like that. So this F-150, this 21 F-150, which in our opinion is the best year for the F-150, either the base with the 3.3, the EcoBoost 3.5 or 2.7, or the Power Boost, of which we owned one and had basically zero issues over 60,000 miles of driving the hell out of it in just over 2 years. The 21's the year to get if you can. And the 3.0 diesel is a great engine if you just do a ton of highway miles or you do light towing. And we've talked on many occasions about the axle ratio we have in this thing, which is a 331, which we do not recommend. You should have at least a 355, if not a 373, if you're going to be doing any amount of towing with the 3.0 diesel. And again, overall, couldn't be happier with this truck. And we're glad to see again that Ford is doing those updates, even on obsolete features like the analog gauges that are not made anymore for the F-150 as of 2024. Thanks. We'll talk to you soon.